Narrator, Josh Martin, 19 years old, college freshman. I'd never thought that enrolling in a literature class would change my life. I was a computer science major, books weren't really my thing. But the moment Professor Langford walked into the lecture hall, everything shifted. She wasn't just beautiful. She was magnetic. Tall, poised, maybe in her late 30s, Professor Evelyn Langford had this calm power about her. Her voice could silence a room without raising an octave. Her outfit, sleek blouses, tight pencil skirts, heels that clicked confidently, made her impossible to ignore. She didn't try to be sexy. That's what made her irresistible. Most of the guys in class were already whispering about her. But I stayed quiet. I just watched. I didn't expect her to notice me. But she did. It started with eye contact. She held it a beat longer than normal. Then one day, after class, she stopped me. "Josh," she said. "You have an interesting take on Hemingway. Have you ever considered working more closely with the material?" I blinked. Not really. I'm not a literature guy." Her smile was slow, knowing. "You might surprise yourself. If you're interested, I host private workshops every other Friday evening. For students who want to go deeper." Deeper. The word stuck in my head the rest of the day. 2 weeks later, I showed up at her place because yes, the private workshop was held at her home. She said it was more comfortable than a classroom. I brought a notebook and nothing else. No expectations. The door opened before I could knock twice. She was barefoot, wearing a silky burgundy wrap dress that hugged her body in a way I couldn't unsee. Her hair was up. A single strand curled over her cheek. "Josh," she said. "Right on time." There were only 2 other students inside, a girl named Mia, who sat cross-legged on a velvet chair, and a guy I didn't know, sipping wine like he'd done this before. We didn't talk about Hemingway. Instead, Professor Langford guided us through a conversation about boundaries, emotional, psychological, and yes, physical. About how stories could blur the lines between control and surrender. She asked questions no professor should have asked. "Have you ever wanted to give up control, Josh?" The room went still. I felt my throat go dry. "I guess, sometimes." She tilted her head. "Honest? That's good." Mia smiled at me from across the room, her dark eyes amused. She wasn't shocked. She was curious. That night, the literature session became something else entirely. It wasn't sex. Not yet. But it was a kind of game. A psychological dance. At the end, Professor Langford walked me to the door and leaned in close. "You have potential," she whispered. "If you come back, I'll show you more." I couldn't stop thinking about that night. I told myself it was just a weird literature group. An experimental discussion. Nothing happened, not really. But something had happened just beneath the surface. And it was messing with my head. So, of course, I went back. 2 Fridays later, I stood outside her townhouse again. This time, I knocked only once before the door opened. "Welcome back," Professor Langford said, her eyes scanning me like she already knew what I'd been thinking about since I left. Inside, it was just me and Mia. The other guy was gone. Professor Langford motioned for me to sit on the couch while she poured glasses of wine. I noticed she wore a black satin shirt, unbuttoned just enough to tease. Her skirt had a slit up the side, revealing toned legs that moved with intention. I shouldn't have stared. But I did. "Tonight," she said, handing me a glass, "we're going to talk about control and trust." Mia crossed her legs beside me. "It's my favorite topic." Professor Langford smiled, her eyes flickering toward me. "Josh, would you say you're more dominant or submissive?" The wine almost went down the wrong way. I've never really thought about it. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. You should. It tells you how you relate to the world, and to people you let close. Mia chimed in. It's not about sex. It's about honesty. That word again. Honesty. I nodded slowly. Okay. Then I guess. I like being in control. But I don't mind letting go if I trust someone. Professor Langford's lips curved in approval. That's a very mature answer. She stood and walked behind me, her fingertips brushing lightly over the back of the couch then my shoulder. In this space, she whispered, trust is everything. And trust must be earned. She held out something small and black, a blindfold. My pulse spiked. No pressure, she said softly. But if you wear it, you're giving me permission to lead. Just for a moment. I looked at Mia. She gave me a gentle nod, like she'd done it before. So I took it. The fabric slid over my eyes, cutting out the world. I felt exposed. Vulnerable. Every sound sharpened. Her voice was close. Breathe, Josh. You're safe. Then nothing. The silence stretched. My senses were on high alert. A whisper of silk brushed against my arm. Then the faintest touch, fingertips grazing my jaw. Someone's breath near my ear. I didn't know if it was her, or Mia. The anticipation was maddening. Then the blindfold came off. Professor Langford stood in front of me, composed, unreadable. You did well, she said. But tonight was only a taste. She leaned closer, her voice dropping an octave. Next time, we raise the stakes. The third visit felt different even before I stepped inside. It was raining that night. Light drizzle made the pavement shimmer, and the street was quiet. When Professor Langford opened the door, she didn't say a word, just stepped aside, letting me in. The lights were dimmed. Candles flickered on the mantel. Soft instrumental music played in the background, slow, sensual, almost hypnotic. Mia was already there, curled up on the floor near a low table. She wore a long, flowing robe, silky like the professor's, but deep green. It clung to her frame in ways that made it impossible not to look. Professor Langford closed the door behind me and locked it. This wasn't a literature workshop anymore. Take off your shoes, she said. And your watch. No distractions tonight. I obeyed. Something about her tone left no room for argument. And maybe I didn't want to argue. Tonight, she said, walking past me, we begin with trust, and we continue with rules. You are not here to impress. You are here to explore. But to do that, she turned to face me, you must surrender expectations. She picked up a small black notebook from the table and handed it to me. Inside were handwritten rules. Short, precise, and numbered. Obedience is voluntary but expected once chosen. No touching without permission. You must ask before you speak in intimate settings. Pain is never the goal, presence is. Stop means stop. Always. Respect yourself or you cannot respect us. I looked up. This is real. Professor Langford smiled. Of course it's real. Why would you think otherwise? Mia stood, walked to me, and gently took the book from my hands. She didn't speak. She just held my gaze and slowly removed the belt of her robe, letting it fall open just slightly. Not naked. Not vulgar. Just bold. Do you trust us, Josh? She asked, her voice low. I think so. Then sit, Professor Langford said, nodding to a cushion on the floor. Tonight, Mia leads. I hesitated. She's younger than me, I said, surprised by my own voice. Is she your student too? Mia smiled. I was. Until I chose to become more. Professor Langford placed a hand on my shoulder, guiding me down. You're not here to compare. You're here to learn. So I sat. Mia stood in front of me, barefoot, composed. She didn't touch me. Instead, she asked a question. What scares you more, giving control, or being seen fully? I froze. No one had ever asked me that before. I don't know, I said quietly. Both. Mia nodded and stepped back. That's where we start, Professor Langford said. Next time, we go further. But only if you ask for it. She knelt beside me and whispered in my ear. Your desire means nothing unless it's conscious. Then she stood and left the room, leaving me there with Mia, the candlelight, and a heart that wouldn't slow down. I didn't sleep much after that third session. The rules played in my head over and over. Not because they scared me, but because they made me feel something I couldn't name. Protected, maybe. Or owned. And I wanted more. The next invitation came via text. Not from Professor Langford, but from Mia. Come early. She said, you're ready. Wear something simple. No belt. No belt. I showed up 10 minutes early, heartbeat out of rhythm, in jeans and a black t-shirt. The door was unlocked. I let myself in. Inside, the atmosphere had shifted again. This time, the lights were even lower. A single lamp lit the room in warm gold, and in the center sat one chair. Professor Langford stood near the window in a long, dark red dress. Hair down. Barefoot. Mia approached me silently and reached out without asking, brushing her fingers along my arm, then guiding me toward the chair. Sit, she whispered. But keep your hands on your thighs. Don't move unless she says. I obeyed. Then Professor Langford turned and walked toward me, her steps unhurried, precise. She circled the chair like a predator studying her prey. You've come far, she said. Most men would have run by now. I swallowed. I don't want to run. Good, she said, standing behind me. Because tonight, we leave marks. My pulse jumped. She leaned down. Her lips brushed just behind my ear. Verbal, emotional, maybe physical. But only if you accept. I nodded. No, she said sharply. Words. Always words here. I accept. That seemed to please her. She walked back to Mia, whispered something I couldn't hear. Mia nodded, then disappeared into another room. You want to know what Mia is to me, Professor Langford said, now facing me again. She's my student, yes. But she's also my partner. Not in ownership, in understanding. She knows my needs, my triggers, my limits. Just like I know hers. She stepped closer. That's what I want with you. I felt something swell inside me. Not lust, something deeper. Something dangerous. And what am I? I asked. She smiled. You're becoming. Then she knelt between my legs. Her hands never touched anything too far, just my knees, then my chest, then the side of my face. Do I have your permission to go further? She whispered. I exhaled. Yes. She leaned up, and kissed me. Slow. Deliberate. Like she wanted to taste not just my lips, but my mind. She didn't rush it. She claimed it. When she pulled back, I was shaking, not from fear, but from how grounded I suddenly felt. Mia returned then. She carried a leather choker, soft, thin, elegant, and handed it to Professor Langford without a word. This is a symbol, the professor said. Not of submission. Of awareness. If you wear it tonight, it means you trust us to guide you. She waited. I nodded again. I want to wear it. She fastened it gently around my neck. Not tight. Just enough to feel. Then she kissed my forehead. You've taken your first mark. The choker felt light on my neck, but its meaning weighed heavily in my chest. I kept touching it, not nervously, but to remind myself it was real. That this was real. Not a fantasy. Not a dream. And not just some strange after-hours experiment. It was a contract. Invisible, but powerful. Professor Langford didn't speak for a while after fastening it. She just studied me. Like she was reading something written under my skin. Then, she turned to Mia. "Take him," she said. I blinked. "Take me." Mia grinned and held out her hand. "Don't worry, rookie. I don't bite. Not without permission." I followed her down a hallway lit by flickering candles. Every step away from the living room felt like a step deeper into something I didn't understand yet but wanted to. We entered a small room, soft rugs, mirrors, a low bed with no headboard. Clean. Precise. Ritualistic. Mia closed the door and motioned for me to sit on the floor. She sat across from me, knees touching mine. Close. Confident. "Let's make something clear," she said. "This isn't about sex. I know. It's about surrender. And trust. And pressure. The kind that builds slowly and never bursts unless you ask for it." I nodded. She moved forward, so close our noses almost touched. "Do you want to know what she sees in you?" I swallowed. "Yeah." Mia leaned in, lips barely brushing my ear. "Potential. Control hidden beneath softness. Curiosity without shame. You're not broken yet." She pulled back, eyes serious. "But you will be. In the best way." My breath caught. Then she reached behind herself and held up a silk ribbon. Pale gray. Cool to the touch. "I want to bind your wrists," she said. "Just gently. Just for 5 minutes. You can say no. Or stop. Or, you can let go." I looked down at my hands. My mind screamed for logic. But my body, my heart was already answering. "Yes," I said quietly. "Do it." She moved behind me and wrapped the ribbon around my wrists, soft, but snug. Like a question waiting to be answered. Her voice, now behind me, was gentle. "Close your eyes." I did. Then I heard the door open. Footsteps. The scent of perfume. Professor Langford. I didn't open my eyes, but I could feel her presence like heat against my skin. "She trusted you," she said, walking slowly around me. "That means something. Mia doesn't give her control easily." I felt her fingers trace the choker. "You belong to both of us now. Not as property. As promise." Then her lips grazed my temple. "Speak your truth, Josh. What do you want from us?" Eyes still closed, I breathed deeply and said the words without fear. "I want to learn how to let go. And how to serve something bigger than myself." Silence. Then two voices, hers and Mia's, whispered together. "Then the real training begins." The next meeting wasn't at the house. Instead, I received a plain white envelope slipped into my locker. No name. Just a note in precise handwriting. Room 204. After dark. Wear the choker. Come alone. It was signed with a simple L. Professor Langford. Room 204 was part of an old, unused wing of campus. Abandoned classrooms, scratched floors, high windows with dust-filtered moonlight. I arrived at 9:03 p.m. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, a single desk. A chair. And her. Professor Langford stood with her back to me, wearing all black tight slacks, a high-neck blouse, hair braided in a severe knot. Different from how she dressed at home. Colder. Sharper. "Sit," she said without turning. I sat. Do you know why you're here? She asked. To learn. She finally faced me. To choose. Her heels echoed as she circled me. You followed well. Obeyed. You've submitted to Mia. Trusted her hands, her breath, her rhythm. And that's good. She stopped beside me. But Mia is soft. A pause. I am not. The words hit different. Not cruel. Just honest. I don't need you to be gentle, Josh. I need you to be intentional. Everything you give me must be a choice. I nodded, throat dry. I understand. Do you? She asked, stepping closer. Then tell me who you crave more, me or Mia. I froze. That's not fair, I said. Her eyebrow lifted. Truth rarely is. I crave both. She studied me. Wrong answer. In this space, there is no both. You follow one voice at a time. Then she leaned in and whispered. Tonight, you follow mine. She placed something on the desk in front of me. A silver coin. One side means obedience, she said. The other resistance. I picked it up. There was no marking. Both sides looked identical. How do I know which is which? I asked. You don't, she said. That's the point. Toss it. And live with the outcome. I flipped it. It landed silently in my palm. I looked at it. No difference. She watched my face closely. Obedience, I lied. She smiled. Then strip your shirt. Kneel. And close your eyes. I obeyed. Her footsteps circled behind me. I felt fingers at the choker. Then cool metal, like a chain, clicking lightly. She was attaching something. Wait. You will stay here, she said, voice like silk over steel. Still. Silent. Until I return. And if I move, then Mia will take your place. And you will watch. That hit deep. She left. And I knelt there, shirtless, silent, chained to nothing but the promise around my neck and the game she'd just begun. I lost track of time kneeling on that cold wooden floor. The weight she'd clipped to the choker wasn't much, just enough to make me constantly aware of it, like a whisper at my throat saying, "You're not in control." The room was still. Silent. Except for my breath, which I worked hard to keep steady. At some point, I heard the door click open behind me. I didn't move. Footsteps padded softly, not heels this time. Bare feet. A scent I recognized. Mia. She walked around me slowly, watching. Not speaking. Then knelt in front of me. You didn't flinch, she said quietly. That's impressive. I opened my eyes. She was in a long hoodie, no makeup, hair in a messy bun. The opposite of how Professor Langford presented herself. But no less powerful. She said you'd be here, Mia continued. She said I might be the one to break your focus. I thought I wasn't allowed to speak unless told, I said. Her lips curled slightly. You're learning. She sat cross-legged in front of me, eyes scanning my body, my chest, my arms, the tension in my jaw. Then she leaned forward and touched the weight hanging from the choker. She wants to shape you, she said. Mold you into someone who fits her world. I want that. Mia's face changed. Barely, but I saw it. A flicker of doubt. Or disappointment. Maybe even pain. Do you? She asked. Or do you just want to please whoever's in front of you? I didn't answer. She reached for my wrists, gently lifting my hands. Your skin is warm. But your pulse, it's fighting. What do you mean? I mean, she said, holding my hands tighter, that part of you is still unsure who you belong to. And I think, you're scared to admit it's not her. Silence stretched between us. Then she leaned in and kissed me. Not like the professor had. Not precise, not calculated. It was messy. Real. Full of need. I kissed her back. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about control blurred. When she pulled away, her breath caught. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. I nodded. "She won't like it," Mia said. And just as the words left her mouth, the door creaked again. We both turned. Professor Langford stood there, one brow raised, arms crossed. Calm on the outside, but her eyes burned like ice held over fire. "I told you to wait," she said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Mia stood slowly, facing her. He was cold. I warmed him. "That wasn't your role tonight." Mia didn't flinch. "Maybe it should have been." Professor Langford turned to me, her gaze sharp but unreadable. "Well," she said. "It seems the coin landed on resistance after all." The silence after her words was worse than any scream. "It seems the coin landed on resistance after all." She didn't sound angry. That would have been easier. She sounded clinical. Detached. And that scared me more. Mia didn't look away. She stood tall, arms by her sides, expression calm but defiant. "I kissed him," she said simply. "Not the other way around." Professor Langford stepped fully into the room and closed the door behind her with a soft click. The sound echoed. She walked toward us, her heels now audible again. Deliberate. Sharp. "Do you think that makes a difference, Mia?" "It makes all the difference." I was still kneeling. Forgotten in the exchange between them. Or maybe not forgotten, just momentarily irrelevant. "You broke protocol," the professor said. "You broke trust," Mia replied. "You set him up, Evelyn. You chained him like a test subject. That wasn't guidance. That was control." Professor Langford's jaw clenched, but she didn't respond right away. Instead, she turned to me. "You wanted to serve, didn't you?" I nodded. "Then tell me, Josh. In this moment, who do you serve?" The question cut deeper than I expected. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Mia looked at me with hope. Langford looked at me with expectation. But under both, I felt pressure. Not pain. Not punishment. Just the weight of choice. "I don't want to serve a person," I said slowly. "I want to serve the space we create together." Silence. Mia blinked, surprised. Professor Langford tilted her head. "That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I've got." She studied me. Then took a breath. "Stand up." I obeyed. She moved closer and unfastened the weight from my choker. Then, slowly, she reached behind my neck, and unclipped it entirely. I felt suddenly naked. "Then we shift the rules," she said. She handed the choker to Mia. "If he belongs in a shared space, let's see what you do with him." Mia stared at her, eyes wide. "You're serious?" Professor Langford didn't blink. "One night. You lead. Fully. No oversight. No interference. But if he comes back to me confused, he's no longer ready for either of us." She turned and walked toward the door, her voice cold and final. "Some games are only meant for two." Then she left. The room was still again. Mia held the choker in both hands, almost like it was alive. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something different in her. Not just softness. Responsibility. "Are you sure you want to follow me now?" she asked, her voice almost trembling. I stepped forward, close enough for our fingers to touch. "I don't want to follow," I said. "I want to walk beside you. And learn what that means." She smiled. and for the first time since this began, I saw her eyes tear up. Then let's rewrite the rules. We walked in silence. Mia still held the choker in both hands, gripping it like it was something sacred or dangerous. When we reached her apartment, she opened the door without looking at me. The space inside was nothing like Evelyn's. No sharp corners. No symmetrical arrangements. Just warmth. Soft pillows scattered across the floor. Dim string lights. Stacks of books, candles in mismatched jars, a faint scent of jasmine and cinnamon. It wasn't curated. It was lived in. "Take off your shoes," she said gently. I obeyed. "Sit on the floor." I obeyed again. Mia set the choker on a small wooden box beside us. She turned on low music, soft guitar, slow rhythm, no words. Then she sat down across from me, legs tucked beneath her. "Tonight," she said, "there are no protocols. No tests. No supervision." She pulled out a silk scarf, light gray, almost translucent. She didn't move to tie it. Just held it up. "This isn't a tool," she said. "Not tonight. It's just a symbol." Then she took my hand slowly and placed it against her neck. "Start here," she whispered. "Feel me. Not like a toy. Like a mirror." Her skin was warm. Her pulse was fast. Not fear. Something else. We stayed like that for a long time, my palm on her throat, both of us breathing together. It wasn't erotic. It was electric. After a few minutes, she lay down on the rug, arms outstretched. Vulnerable. Exposed. "I don't want to control you," she said, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "I want to see you. Fully. And I want you to see me. Not as a submissive. Not as a tool," Evelyn sharpened. "As a woman who used to be afraid of being too much." I moved beside her. "Lay down, shoulder to shoulder." She turned her head toward me. "Do you think I'm weak?" "No." "Do you think she's stronger than me?" I hesitated. "She's older," I said. "More precise. But strength doesn't mean cold. You lead from the heart. That's harder." Her eyes softened. Then she reached for the choker again. Held it between us. "Then wear this," she whispered. "Not because I command you. But because you choose me. Tonight. Just tonight." I took it from her hand, and fastened it around my own neck. Mia exhaled. And for the first time, she kissed me like she meant it. No game. No lesson. Just lips and skin and shared breath, the kind that makes your chest ache from how real it feels. We didn't undress. We didn't need to. We just lay there, chests rising together, a slow rhythm forming between us, the kind of silence that says, "This isn't over. This is beginning." We didn't hear the door. We only noticed her when the candlelight caught her silhouette standing quietly in the doorway. Professor Evelyn Langford. Her eyes moved across the room, calmly, with that same unreadable grace. She saw us lying on the floor. Still clothed. But deeply connected. Mia sat up slowly. "I didn't plan this," she said. "But I won't apologize for it." Evelyn walked in, shutting the door behind her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't look angry. She looked tired. And something else. Proud. "You led," she said to Mia. "Without fear." Mia stood. "I didn't lead. I listened." Evelyn turned to me now. "And you," she said softly. "You chose her." I swallowed. "I chose me." Finally. Silence. I stood too. The choker still on my neck. "I came here to follow," I said. "To obey. To impress." But somewhere along the way, I realized I don't need someone to hold the leash. I just needed someone to hold space. Evelyn nodded slowly. Then I've taught you everything I could. She stepped closer. Took the choker from my neck gently, not as punishment. As closure. Power, she said, was never the lesson. Presence was. She looked at Mia. You'll take him further than I could. Because you're not afraid to be soft. Then she looked back at me. And you're no longer a student. I smiled. Then what am I? Evelyn smiled back. Free. She turned. Walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked over her shoulder. Just remember, she said, rules were made to be rewritten. The door clicked shut. Mia walked to me, slow, calm. She didn't kiss me. She just took my hand, leaned her head on my shoulder, and breathed. And for the first time since it all began, I didn't want anything more. The end.